Supreme Court is currently deadlocked at 8 judges, and filling that 9th seat depends a lot on who wins the presidential election tomorrow. Bill Putnam has more.
Regardless of who wins the election Tuesday, the Supreme Court is facing big changes. Traditionally, 9 justices sit on the nation's highest court. That changed, at least for now, when Justice Antonin Scalia died earlier this year. Since then, the court has heard cases with 8 sitting justices. It has already issued 2 decisions with a 4-4 tie. To fill that vacancy, President Barack Obama nominated Judge Merrick Garland. Republican senators, led by Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, said they wouldn't hold the nomination hearing for him. Sitting on the bench now are 4 justices nominated by Republican presidents and 4 nominated by Democratic presidents. So what happens next? That depends on who wins the presidency and Senate. If the GOP wins the Senate and Clinton wins the presidency, then they could block her nominees.
Then, some of them could try and filibuster and make it a 60-vote requirement. And then there would be the question of, can Democrats get to 60? Are there Republicans who either just value the process and kind of the integrity and traditions of the Senate?
Filling that seat is important. The court is bound to hear cases on topics like sex discrimination, gun control, challenges to abortion laws, and President Obama's executive actions on immigration, which are winding their way through the nation's court system now. It's widely expected that the court will have up to 3 retirements in the next administration. That means whoever wins the White House will get to fill those vacancies. For District Wire News, I'm Bill Putnam.
Thank you, Bill. The President and the Congress have had a contentious relationship in the past 8 years. Will this election change anything? Chelsea is in the studio with more.
As the election is coming to a close, focus is being shifted to congressional and presidential relationships and how they work together. And there is specific interest in the future of the Supreme Court, as the next presidential nominee will pick a new judge. The nominee will be replacing conservative Judge Anthony Scalia, who died earlier this last year. With more information about this topic, I'm with Chris Edelson, who is an assistant professor in government at American University. And Chris, thank you so much for joining me
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I know we all are looking forward to November 9th, but let's talk a little bit about where we are right now.
Sure.
How is President Obama and Congress's relationship at the moment?
Well, I think there's not much of a relationship right now. It hasn't been for quite some time. When President Obama took office, he did make a lot of noteworthy efforts to reach out to Republicans. It didn't go very well. I think Republicans decided pretty early on. I remember Senator McConnell, the minority leader at the time, now the majority leader, said our goal is to deny President Obama a second term. And I think Republicans have seen a victory for Obama, whatever it is something they oppose reflexively, which has been a very difficult dynamic. And that's sort of where things have been for quite some time.
Yeah, we've definitely seen Congress working against the president instead of for him. But on the campaign trail, we're seeing presidential candidates and representatives, especially down the ticket, working together. What can you tell us about that?
In terms of, I'm not sure if you...
Yeah, so I think we've all really seen candidates down the ticket working with presidential candidates to try to change House's colors.
Oh, sure. Well, so obviously there's going to be partisan votes. So Democrats in running for the Senate, there are a number of contested seats, a number of very close elections, and Democrats are hoping to move control of the Senate to their column, which I think will be hard. They have to pick up 4 seats at least. That's assuming that Clinton wins the presidency. A lot of very close races: Missouri, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Florida, maybe not as close, but it's really hard to see. If you look at the prediction sites, a place like 538.com, they had it about 50-50, the Democrats being narrowly favored until recently, but just today I saw them dipping under 50%. So, I think there was a lot of question about what happened after the initial Comey letter a week or so ago to Congress. And at that time, I think Democrats felt confident about the presidency and pretty good about the Senate. Since then, I think they've felt less confident about both, but probably more confident about the presidency and the Senate. And I think, if one had to predict, you'd say probably it's likely that Clinton wins the presidency, though obviously no one knows for sure, and less likely Democrats take control of the Senate. In the House, last predictions I've seen is Democrats pick up maybe 10 or 15 seats, which is a significant number of pickups, but not enough to change control of the House. So the likeliest scenario is you have a Democratic president and Republicans controlling both chambers of Congress, which could be a difficult situation.
Absolutely. So as we're talking about concession and contention with the legislative branch, we're also seeing some problems with the judicial branch. There is a lot of talk about nominating a next justice. We've seen Mitch McConnell say that he is not willing to support and that Congress would revoke their consent and not speak at all. Has this been precedented? Has this happened before?
No, not that I know of. It's a really curious situation. So first you had Justice Scalia dying almost a year before the election. And I can't think of something quite that close to the election happening, but there have been nominees confirmed during an election year. Justice Kennedy was confirmed during the 1988 election year, and it wasn't that controversial. It was unusual to see Republicans saying, we're not going to confirm any nominee. In fact, we won't even meet with nominees. But their argument was, we want the people to decide. Okay, so it's a controversial argument, but it's an argument. Now that the election is approaching, they seem to be changing that. I've heard several senators, Senator Cruz, in particular, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, has said, not only are we not going to confirm anyone before the election, if Hillary Clinton's elected, we're not going to confirm anyone for 4 years. This makes me think of kind of a mirror image, a reverse image of what Franklin Roosevelt did after the 1936 election when he proposed packing the court to try to force a specific result. Now you have Republicans kind of unpacking the court, reducing the number of justices on the court in order to reach a specific result, which I think raises questions about judicial independence and about the line between law and politics. The only example I can think of is, like I said, the 36 court packing scheme, which was roundly rejected by both Democrats and Republicans. The question will be, if Republicans are suggesting that now, will there be bipartisan opposition?
Now, you mentioned Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz was talking to the Washington Post a couple of days ago, and he said that there has been a history of having less than 9 judges. Let's fact check, Professor.
That's
Is that correct?
really disingenuous. Of course there has been, but not in this way. So the Constitution doesn't set a number of justices for the Supreme Court, and the first Supreme Court had 6 justices. They did, at the time, which seems curious, just today we'd say, oh, isn't it going to be deadlocked? Framers of the Constitution didn't think the Supreme Court would play as large a role in public life as it has. Things have changed over the year. So the number of justices in the court has varied. At one time it was 10, it's been 8, it's been 9 for more than 100 years now. Congress has the authority to change the number of justices in the court, and that's why Franklin Roosevelt proposed his court packing scheme. It wasn't unconstitutional. The reason it was rejected was it was seen as blatantly partisan. And so when Senator Cruz said this has happened before, yes, it's true, but when it happened in a partisan context, when Franklin Roosevelt proposed it, leading Democrats understood this can't be done, and Democrats, his supporters in Congress, rejected it. So I don't agree with Senator Cruz that if the Republicans decided we're not going to confirm a nominee and that's just business as usual, it's clearly would be something different.
Well, thank you so much for all your wisdom today, sir.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chris Edelson, as an associate professor at the School of Government at American University.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, journalists have poured through thousands of emails and hundreds of government documents to learn more about the presidential candidates. Has their investigative work impacted this election? We'll talk to a leading investigative journalist for more insight. Stay with us.